Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery, and with the help of my spirit guides, it's time to trust your intuition. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now onto the show.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We're having a little roundtable discussion here. That's really nice. But I'm just going to read something from my book, as I always do now. I think I'm getting people asking me to. So this is in my book, and it's Let Us Give Thanks. And then we're open to questions. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thought, mind, and spirit. What great joy we have. If only we could understand. If we try, there is so much to see. Stop, look, think. Everything is within. What greatness we can achieve. Listen, my friend, to yourself. Questions? They are all there. Take time to see what we already know. What a joy. What happens? No hurt, no fear. When we are told, we understand. What a blessing. What a joy. What an escape from hurt. We will know what lies ahead. Do not fear. Do not be scared. We must share this gift that is within. What talent we possess. Look and you will see. The answers are all there. No more sorrow, no more fighting, no more heartache. We will understand. Zena, I guess that was really important. I just reread my own, although I wrote that many years ago, when I read it again today, it takes on a whole new meaning. And I think that was a very important message. That wasn't coincidence that I opened it at that page. Well, here I am. If there's any questions, if anybody out there, when you've read my book, if you feel free to ask me any questions that are in my book, the number here is 888-994-4995, Studio A. So please call in. I'm here to answer your questions for the next hour. Okay, let's start with this.
Aldo worked on the book with you.
Well, he didn't. He worked on the interpretations of my artwork.
So what was his interpretation of the one you just read?
Well, that was basically me. I wrote that myself. I went in the same way that he interpreted my art. I didn't understand that much. That was like 20-something years ago. So I would go into a room, just quiet, and I wrote that. I would tell him what I'd written, and he told me that it would one day be in a book. But when he interpreted my art, which he did many times with it, many things, he would also go into a room for about 6 or 7 hours and look at my artwork and interpret it, which is now in my book too.
Do you remember what he told you about this?
And no, Freddie, I don't, because that was my interpretation of what, basically, with what I actually just read, with what is going on with my mind at that time. I had no idea at that time what I was writing. It's only through the years now that I'm reading a lot of these things on my show of what we call prose, that I'm understanding even more. As you know, we're all on a journey, and I see you nodding your head, which is, I think that you understand exactly what I'm saying. We're all on an individual journey. He was obviously, at the time when I met Aldo, for people that don't know, he actually was my guide here. He lived here. So it wasn't someone from the spirit world at that time who gave me so much advice over the 18 years of when we were good friends. There wasn't a day that went by that he didn't teach me something, but I was ready to listen. And I'm here now to pass on that message to myself. And I'm also reading some of the things that I wrote that today make much more sense to me. My artwork, when I look at some of the things that I was sketching, they all had messages within them, which he would interpret for me, yes. So now we open up to maybe my favorite topic is aliens and also karma. So maybe we have karma through aliens.
Karma
I don't know.
and aliens. I actually have a question, if you don't mind, before we get to that.
Of course.
I know we're not talking politics, but the state of the country right now, a lot of people are out of work.
Yes.
Is there a greater message in this? Do you think it's going to shift the energies of people looking for other types of work?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind, actually, and it's not political, because I'm not going to become political in any way, but if it's not unsimilar to what we had when we experienced COVID, It's very similar. We were kind of stuck in our homes. We had change. We had no choice. We do have more choice right now, but it's change. Maybe what we're doing, maybe it gives us time to think a little bit, go within, which I often talk about with ourselves, to know. We all, as an individual, as a collective and as individual, have an opportunity to change what's going on. Whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter. It's like two different sides. That's okay. Whatever you believe, it's fine. But we need change. We need some sort of change. We need positivity. That's the best word that I can say. Let's have positivity here, because we're not going down a very good road. No matter what you believe, no matter what you think, no matter what side you're on, there is no balance here. We need to have balance in the whole world. I mean, just listen occasionally, to the news. Just listen to anything. We're out of sync. There's a reason we say sync. We're out of sync. And I feel that very strongly. And I feel that each one of us sitting here can feel that. Can I make the change? No, but I can voice what I feel. Each one of us can. And through communication, I think we can help. If we start, it all starts with ourselves. We start with ourselves, and then we expand that, and we carry it on through vibrational energy. And we can make a shift. We can make a shift, because the world is changing. For good or bad, it's changing. And we're much more aware of, people are much, much more aware, which we were discussing a little while ago. Today, people are aware of, let's use aliens, which is a great topic. I love that topic. I think I watched part of the Super Bowl yesterday, which you had said there was a couple of commercials with aliens in that. Maybe if they'd seen that 10 years ago, well, everything is crazy, they'd say this is crazy. But they are putting stuff in front of us. It's important.
You wouldn't have seen that 10 years ago.
No, probably not, because people were not. The good thing, as much as there's a lot of bad going on, the good thing is that people are becoming much more aware of these things. And through awareness, we can communicate much more. Without communication, we're not going to get very far. So we need to communicate whatever we're thinking or whatever we're seeing, because that vibration has a ripple effect. It goes to one person and another and another. Just me doing this show, and I've been doing it, which we just said, for 2.5 years now. It has a ripple effect. I gain more audience. I get more questions. I've changed since the very beginning of this show, which I started. I was totally different. But I've become much more aware that there is a need, not just for me, but for people that can spread this word. Let's all try to get along here, and let's try positivity. Can't hurt.
Well, the narrative, today's narrative would not have allowed 10 years ago that to be displayed. But the funny thing is that what you're mentioning, true transparency, because my biggest fear is under the false pretense of true transparency, misinformation is given. There's an old adage, there's a formula that was used back, and it's funny because every time I use this example, it originated from World War II. I'm sorry, but it did. Not comparing today to that, but
Right.
what I'm saying is that it was an old narrative where you created havoc and then you presented a solution. And you did this to get the solution which nobody wanted to pay attention to. But if you create a havoc big enough, a big problem enough, anything is going to look like a good solution. So you end up getting your thing done by subtraction, not addition.
And that's so true, because we were talking about Aldo, and I think I've mentioned this before, and he used to say, be it politics or whatever, divide and conquer. And that is very true to what you're just saying. If you divide, you have, unfortunately, you can conquer, good or bad, but you have, diversity is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you divide two sides, like there's this side and that side, it gives the opportunity for whatever it is for somebody to conquer that. And it's very similar to what you're just saying, and I think he's coming through right now. My guide, Alda, comes through. I don't often say, he's here, but I feel very much so that he's actually nodding his head and agreeing with you.
But that's it. If Dawn and I disagreed on a subject matter that whoever puts in play, and then it's burning everything down in its path, then his resolution, something that her and I will agree to disagree, but resolve, it looks like a good idea. But he was never going to get that idea done because it's just so out there. Now he's going so out there that anyone with a better plan, any plan, becomes a resolution.
It becomes a resolution, yes, it does. And that's why, if we can look at both, I always try to say this to people, and it's not easy, but we need to look at both sides of anything, no matter what it is, be it politics, be it whatever. We need to see both sides, and then maybe we have some chance of making some sort of whatever it is, we can voice our opinion. But I think you need to be armed with both sides of any situation, be it whatever it is. And hopefully then we can have something productive. Because the more you argue or the more you disagree, you're never going to get everybody to agree about everything, and you're not going to get everybody who's not going to be necessarily arguing. So we need that balance with anything in our life. And I think, if nothing else right now, my message is let's all try. I talk about positivity, but how important is positivity? It's very important. There again, I have said, and I like to say this too, out of negativity can come positivity too. That makes sense. The more I say that, the more I see that. Because without the negativity, you're not always, it's like when you see black, you see white, or white without black. You need both sides of that. And then at least you're armed with some sort of explanation. And if someone else doesn't agree, but you have something going, you have communication. Communication is very, very important. And I believe, and to bring this back a little bit, maybe to the topic of aliens, I believe that majority of people that are beginning to see that there is such a thing now as aliens are here to help us. They're showing us that there is another way through technology, through disclosure. Not every person, there are many, in my belief system anyway, there are many, many planets out there, and I would say the majority of them are friendly. There is always going to be something from the other side, including the aliens. But let's try to keep an open mind, not only with that, but with anything. And let's just try. If my little show here helps people to open their mind up a little bit, let's try. Let's try it. Can't hurt.
I guess going back to what Dawn said, I believe you and Dawn had started this discussion about focusing on what's around you and the ripple effect. That makes me think of the nonprofits that help their specific communities. So the nonprofits that are here in Delray, focusing on making a difference in Boca and Delray. Even if it's only the town of Boca or the town of Delray that sees the benefit, at least it's starting somewhere. It's
starting somewhere, and that's what's very important. Because yes, I have an hour show every week, for now quite a long time. I don't know who's out there that's listening or who has questions, but at least I'm putting out what I feel. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, but it's a topic of conversation. And as long as you can do that, no matter be a non-profit, be it whatever it is, we need that communication, no matter what the subject is. Because if you start people talking gets people to think. Thinking gets changed. Change is very, very important. And I feel that as people know, I am channeling a lot of this information. And I think they're telling me very much now that change is very, very important, even if it's controversial, whatever we talk about. At least we're talking about it. Because when you stop talking about it, nothing can change. When you start talking about it, things will change, good or bad, but it will make change.
And the question that came to my mind was, is positive change on a national level possible?
Yes, it is possible. Is it going to take a lot of work? Yes. Is it going? I can't tell you when, but if we don't talk about it, we're going to go nowhere. So even if it's someone that has a different point of view, at least we're discussing it. Discussion is very important because it gets your mind thinking, not of just mundane things. There's nothing wrong with that, but we hear and talk a lot of stuff that really doesn't apply to a whole lot. So let's put this forward with positive. Let's listen to things. Let's see the different. I think the most important part of this message is let's see the other person's side, their point of view. Because if you don't talk about it, you're never going to know their point of view. Do you have to agree with it? Absolutely not. but at least you're listening. Stop and listen. A lot of this prose is a lot to do with that. I didn't know that. That was 20 years ago that I wrote that, the same way as I do my art. I didn't know what I was drawing, but it's a positive message for today. I see that.
So do you think open communication of the masses that feel unheard is important right now? Otherwise, for fear or negative, you're suppressing the energy and everyone's retreating into their homes. Is it better for them to come together and have an open conversation to elevate the energy?
Absolutely, Dawn, be it through which we call the Zoom, whichever we did. It doesn't matter how it takes place. It doesn't have to be as we're doing now. I feel energy, and I think that's important, but we can also do this sitting in our own home, and we can have discussions. That's what COVID did. We didn't know about these Zoom meetings before that. I'm a little behind the time because I didn't ever do a Zoom meeting, but it's important that communication is what's very important. Without communication, we're not going to bring forth change, good and bad.
I think you have a phone call.
I have a phone call. Okay, hello.
Hello, bring the caller over, please. We have the caller? Caller, you're on.
Hello? Well, let's keep talking.
Oh, they're gonna. Let me know when the caller's on.
So it's about positive communication, because I feel as if we're back to COVID where we're being suppressed. People's opinions are being suppressed for fear of, how do you feed your family? How do you pay your mortgage? How do you pay your rent? So like you said,
That's fear.
a little bit is better than nothing, right? If you
But
have a
this
job
is-
that's going to pay you $10,
Yes.
which you would have never taken before, you're going to take it because you have to feed your family, you
That's
have
right.
to survive.
So it's a bigger problem to resolve it by a smaller resolution.
So is the answer to open the communications?
Open, I was just going to say open
ideas?
communication, because that brings forth new ideas. Because if you think about it, a lot of our ideas stem from communication, of imagination, no matter what it is. You can, or a dream. A lot of people, I listen to Shark Tank a lot, and a lot of what they actually talk about, they'll say it came in a dream. But if you don't put that in motion, nothing's going to change, no matter how you get it. If you're just sitting here meditating and you have an idea, be it a question, be it a book, be it anything, bring it forward. Even if just one person hears that one person is going to talk to somebody else. Open communication is very, very important. Because if you just sit at home and you don't talk to anybody, which actually didn't happen all the time with COVID, a lot of people realized that they could do many other things by sitting at home. So, was it good and bad? Of course it wasn't good, but it wasn't all that bad either. It changed us a little bit.
We can call on our angels for help.
Absolutely.
Can we call on the aliens for help?
Absolutely.
Do they work the same way?
I believe they do. Of people that know me, I have been abducted a few times, and I mean, it's not just me saying that, because I believe and I know that, and Steve can vouch for that too, that I very often wake up sometimes and I'm completely paralyzed, and there's no explanation. And if there's any doctors listening, they're going to say there's something wrong with me. No, there isn't. I was abducted a few times.
What's it called? Sleep paralysis?
They call it sleep paralysis.
I can't say it either.
Paralysis?
Paralysis.
So yes, but I mean, I have brought myself around and not being able to speak by being woken up in the middle of it. So I'm not imagining this. And I mean, would I have come forward with this 20 years ago? Probably not. But although I wrote it in my book and I explained what was happening, but that wasn't quite 20 years ago. But it's much more open today. And yes, they do communicate. They communicate with the people that want to hear. It's the same as what we're talking about.
I actually have something to say. So my mom, growing up, has always told me that she also was abducted by aliens. And, I didn't believe her for a really long time, but now she's just obsessed with aliens. I mean, she is a Pisces after all, but...
well, please tell her to call into the show, because we'll have a lot to talk about.
She watches Ancient Aliens every night. She talks about them every night, how they would just stand in front of her bed, and how she knows that they took her. So
absolutely.
she knows. And I
would
believe
love
her,
to. Yes,
so.
please do, because I don't believe that anything that we're
How do
talking
people
about
find
is
us?
coincidence.
Isn't it amazing how they find
It is, but you know why? And I'm seeing that too. It's open discussion. If we had not been talking about that, I wouldn't know about your mum. I'm getting
Exactly.
goosebumps. So I think it's more more people do think the way that we're talking now than we'll voice it. But the good thing is, over the years, especially the last 3 or 4 years, I wrote my first book about 18 years ago, and it was visiting other planets. I thought everybody is going to think I'm nuts, but today I openly talk about my book and all the things that had happened to me at that point. So without that, and that's a very good example, without this open discussion.
I think Steve is
Steve
on the
is on
line.
the phone.
Hi. Hello, Steve? Well,
Come on over, Steve.
when he gets through.
When you
we'll-
guys transfer, let us know.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll
And we
continue.
have somebody new. You have any questions
Yes,
for Sally?
please.
I would just say, what's your experience with like aliens been like?
Very positive. I can honestly say that, and I was many times, because I do talk about it here in my book openly, I have only had very, very friendly encounters, except for maybe one time. But I do believe that fear, if you're fearful, these things don't happen to you. I mean, I can't talk for everybody. Some people perhaps have had bad experiences, but personally myself, 99% of the time, and anything of my encounters have been very positive. And I think they're here to help us. I talked about that 18, 19 years ago in my book, because one of the things that they had said, and they were talking about going into the atmosphere if we have something that's nuclear or whatever it is, and you find that a lot of these sightings are around nuclear sites. I'm not making this up. This has been on the news, is that they don't want us to interfere with the atmosphere because it also affects the planets around us, their atmosphere. And I brought that up about 18, 19 years ago. So no, they're not only here to help us, they're here to help themselves too.
I think going back to what we were talking about with fear, I think a lot of people are on this frequency of fear, which is blocking that ability to believe.
100%, because if you're fearful, it's not like these things won't happen, but you're so scared that if they should, you're going to bring yourself right back. I left my body many times through astral projection or through being abducted. And I actually today, even then, had no fear. So they come to me, yeah, I know you think, but we're talking, I think each one of us here can relate a little bit to this without mentioning any names, and especially you and your
Without
mother.
mentioning
okay?
any names.
No, but I think I'm making a little bit of sense, because if we don't talk about it, it's still out there.
When you say abduction, what was that process kind of like?
Well, I first of all, I don't know if you know anything about astral projection, is when you leave your body and you go to what they call the astral plane. I knew nothing about it, so I'm flying all over the place. So I don't know. I'm writing it all here. I'm feeling vibrational energy. I know less
Do
than
you
what
remember
you know.
it, Sally?
I remember every
She's
single
just flying
thing.
all over the place.
Yeah, from 20
Reminds me
years
of
ago.
Alphaba from the
heard
Wizard
lots of stories.
I can
from
tell
Wicked.
Not only
Defying
do I remember,
gravity.
I can tell you absolutely every single detail. So how could that be a dream? Because if it was a dream, I don't remember last night's dream sometimes.
Were you alone?
No, I was not
There was
alone.
other people flying around with you?
Yes, because that's when I realized that I was being abducted too, because I mention it all here. I didn't even know what I was talking about. But I remember the craft. I remember being on the craft. I remember talking to these people. I remember going to other planets. Then I started to think, which I didn't know too much about astral projection at that time, if I'm flying, which is proven, this is absolutely proven, but I knew nothing about it, why am I in a craft? Because apparently I can fly without the craft. But no, because I was being abducted. I didn't know this. And Aldo, who was with me through every process of my whole thing here, said to me, there is something that you're going to have to find out yourself, and I'm not going to tell you. He passed away 2 years ago, but I found it out. I was being abducted many, many times too. So it was a combination of both.
You did not know?
At that time, I didn't know I was being abducted. I knew I was going to, it didn't make sense to me. I'm in a craft and I'm going to other planets. But I also knew that there were times when I wasn't talking to anybody. So that was my astral projection. But when I'm meeting people, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but it is all here. When I'm actually meeting people in a craft, I would call that abduction, right? So I realized that. And it's all documented in here, exactly what was happening to me.
Smiley, have you ever been abducted?
I have not been abducted, no, but I don't think it's not possible. It could happen. I have tried to meditate, but I think astral projection it's too scary for me to figure out just yet.
I was
but-
just going to say to you that I didn't know, I never brought this upon myself. Well, I did bring it upon myself, but I didn't ask for any of this because I didn't even know what I would have been asking for.
Yeah.
And suddenly I've left my body, and that was in the very beginning, and I'm in different places, and I'm seeing people. I'm seeing places where I used to visit in London. And I'm thinking, but I remember every detail, and there's a difference because when you start remembering, and I can see absolutely every place that I went to, then that, to me, was real because somebody comes up to me as people that know my story. The first time that happened to me, I had no idea where I had been. I just knew what I saw. And this man who became my guide here came up to me and he looked at me and he told me his words. And I brought this up many times as I know where you were last night. He was at my place of work and I had never spoken to him before. And he described every part of my dream. So I was very stubborn and I was banged on the head and they said, yeah, there's something to this. And he described my dream to me and told me that I had a message that I would become an artist and I could draw. And that's exactly what happened.
Sadly, has everybody been abducted? Everybody in this room, have we all been abducted?
I think this is not coincidence in this room, no. I can't tell you for sure that you've all been abducted, but I all believe that you're definitely on the spiritual path. Maybe it's happened to you, maybe not. Maybe it's going to happen and I don't want to scare you but I'd love to talk to your mum. Fear will take it away. There's a couple of us that have definitely been abducted without mentioning names.
Do we have Steve on the line?
Steve on the line?
Well,
Yes,
it's
he
not
is. All right.
Transfer him over.
Hi, Steve. Are you?
Hi, good afternoon. And
Good
I'm sorry I'm not there, but I wanted to tell you this. If you recall, this morning at breakfast we were talking, and I don't often ask you about anything about me
Right.
or spirits around me.
Steve is my husband,
but
by the
this morning
way.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
This morning I did, and you thought for just a millisecond, and you said you saw an older man by the name of Moish
Yeah.
around me. And just let your audience know, my cousin Linda, who watches the show all the time, had a surgical procedure this morning, and her father, his name is Murray, and his Hebrew name was Moish. And so I just verified that with Linda. So your powers go way beyond the scope of anybody's, just fathoming of what you can do.
Thank you,
You
Steve.
never cease to
Appreciate
surprise
that.
and amaze me.
Thank you. Yeah,
But I
that
thought you'd
happened
want
this
to know
morning.
that.
I was getting this name, and she was having the procedure. Thank you for calling in. It makes me feel good, too. So she knew that, right? You
Yes,
told her?
I thought it would.
Good, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I did. And
Yeah.
she's doing well, by the way.
Good, thank you. Thank you for calling in. I'll see
Okay.
you shortly.
Now, can you see
Okay.
people that are going to get
Bye.
married? Like if I ask you, is Smiley going to get married?
I don't think it's a good thing for me to predict that. I might see
But
it
you can
sometimes.
not
No,
on
I can-
yourself.
Well, no, yes, I get a lot of names because, just like anybody else, I still like validation of what I'm doing. And that was a perfect validation from nowhere, sitting having breakfast and I'm getting this name. It seems to be that they give me names because that puts both parties, the person I'm giving the message to and myself at ease because they go, how did you know that name? So it comes to different ways for different people. And the question again was,
Can you see when people are going to get married?
yes, if that's what I'm meant to see sometimes, yes.
So the answer is depends on the person.
It depends on me too, because
Depends on you.
Yes, because they may give me that message, but there are times when I don't always feel that I should give that message to someone, which is my mind coming into it. So yes, I can predict. I can give names and I can
Why
predict.
wouldn't you want to give the message?
Because sometimes
It ruins the future, right? It ruins the
yes,
surprise,
because there is another reason that I don't always do that, because we have free will. And that free will is very, very important. So if I tell someone you've just met someone or you're going to meet someone and this is what's going to happen, there's no guarantee. That's what I'm seeing. But there is what we call different timelines, and that's also very important. So they could take we change timelines all the time. So in another timeline, they may may or may not get married, but that's our free will. And our free will, which could be another show, would put us on it for any of our audience. And I'm sure at this point, if they're following me, they understand quite a bit here because we've been talking about it a long time. They'll go on the timeline that maybe they're going to get married, maybe they're not. So I don't really I can predict, and I think names are important because that's validation that they are watching over us. I mean, I can get people's spirit guides' names, which I have done too with Avron here. So to me, that's important. More so that I like to give more messages of what current or even aliens.
So we can ask you for our spirit guide's name?
Yes, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get the name because there's no way of even proving that.
But after
actually.
commercial
Can you
break.
see it,
I
though?
want to ask mine.
Can you see
Oh,
them?
I want to ask if any names come up around
Yeah?
here.
Yeah,
We have a bunch of
okay.
questions to ask you here.
Okay.
After commercial break,
Maybe my
Sally.
great grandmother's name
we-
comes up or something.
Well, yeah, it depends because
I
it's
wanna
not
hear a
like you
name.
make the phone call and say, "Hey, who's there?"
I want to
You
name.
know. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to break, and it's a perfect time for me to break. And I'm not sure if I'm coming back after. No, I'll come back after the commercial. I will see you guys on the other side of this show. My sweater looks like my arm.
Oh, it does.
My story starts at 4 or 5 years old. My name is Sally Barnard, and I was born at the end of the Second World War, in the middle of an air raid siren going off. My parents were in a movie theater, and my mother went into labor. My father ran out of the movie theater, but there was no cabs to be available because everybody is running for cover. However, they found one, and the taxi driver was given the address to take my father and my mother to the hospital. As my mother was in labor, about a half an hour, I arrived at exactly midnight. I think I was fed messages at a very early age. My parents used to like to play cards, and they had a card game every Wednesday or Thursday night at home when I was a baby. And I actually said to them one day, "Why do you keep waking me up at night? The card game is waking me up, and I can't get back to sleep so quickly." And they looked at each other and they said, "We're not really waking her up." They were quite away from my bedroom. And they called in a psychic to say, "What in the world is going on?" And the psychic said that I'm getting many messages that are waking me up at night. I thought whatever I was experiencing, other people were experiencing too. You don't know until you realize that you are different. Many things were happening to me, things that were unexplainable to me. What I had dreamt was happening. I could sense many things, and the things that I was sensing were coming about, but something was going on. I will explain to you everything. You're ready.
A True Story, Call Me Zena is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came into the U.S. in 1979. A mother of two and a grandmother of four, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the third dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest into art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed a paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail on how she is able to astral a project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life and direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today, authorhouse.com and amazon.com.
Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book at authorhouse and amazon.com or visit my art on my clothing in my boutique
at artbysallybernard.com. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. Please call in if you want to, and thank you, Steve, for calling in earlier. I love the validation, and anybody else that has anything that they want to ask me or validate, I'm here for the next half hour.
I want a name.
You want a what?
A name.
A name. Freddie.
Spiritual,
you
a
wanted a
spiritual
name.
guide name. You gotta be specific. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's not like, and I just said that, I'm just going to call up and they're going to come to me with a
so
name.
if you get
but
me
I
on
do
dial-
get names, and I'm getting Frederica again, and I think I've had that before.
Frederica?
with you. Yes, Frederica.
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 That's a girl.
There you go.
Well, that's the
Your
name
name.
I'm getting. Male or female, I don't
Frederica.
know. But we can have spirit guides, male or female. Frederica.
Oh, she
She's
does-
relating to, it is a she.
It
She's
is a she.
relating
You
very
may-
much to you.
That you say that makes a whole lot of sense.
It does. Naturally, Freddie, naturally.
You gotta tell me more. I think you.
Well-
You had a 50-50 chance of getting it right.
No. I needed to tell you that today.
It
That's
is a
what-
girl.
Yes, it is a girl.
Always does.
Oh,
Does she
there
have a
you-
message from me?
She always does. That's what she said.
I knew
But
I
you're
shouldn't have
very
said
stubborn and you don't sometimes
I'm not
listen. But you
stubborn.
know,
I just
yeah,
make it work for her.
But she knows this.
Of course, she's been
you.
with me all my life.
There you go. And I
You
didn't
know
know
the
that,
story.
Freddie. I didn't know that, but that was the first name that came to me. And when you said, I felt it was a female, but
That's because she wasn't named.
she wasn't named. But you named her this then.
Not me. You just named her.
Oh, okay.
But she was never
Well,
born.
listen to her. She's going, please listen to me. I am around you, and please listen to me.
Okay.
It's very important. That didn't come up by coincidence. It's very important. She
This
said,
is- this is story.
she's saying to me at last, thank you. Thank you.
You know the story.
So what does she have to say to you?
I have no idea. Ask her.
Ask- All will be known. Okay, all will come about, all will be known. And it's not going to, there is no time on the other side.
I
but
never
it's
said there
pretty
was.
imminent.
Yeah, I never said that word.
Pretty, whatever it is that she's telling you, she guides you, Freddie. She guides you very much. You see her, actually, you do see her when you're sleeping.
She's actually been seen in the studio, but that's a story for somebody
Well,
else.
I'm going to say that you see her, but I wasn't
know.
going to say in the studio. I was going to say in your sleep, in your dreams. She
Well,
comes to you very often.
I don't know
But,
about that. But
well, she's going to mean, what do you mean you don't know about that?
get her angry and see what happens.
No, she's
No,
not going to
it's
get
not.
angry.
Please.
Please listen. Freddie, this wasn't coincidence. This is not just... we're
You
pulling
got it
this
right
out of
about
the air.
the girl. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
You got that one. Let's
so
leave
we've
it there.
named her. Maybe that wasn't
No,
the name,
you
but we have
named her
named
because she
I've
was
named
never
her.
born and she never had a name.
Okay, she wasn't born, but her soul is around.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh,
I'm getting
absolutely.
absolutely the feeling now.
Absolutely.
Yes. So just know that. And she never, ever left you. And I'm getting tears in my eyes. Freddie, you have your guide.
No, I know.
She is your guide. She's here to help you in
What
every
specials?
possible way. This is a very, very special person for you. We each and every one of us have a special person, but you're so aware of your special person. and
Oh,
she's
all
trying
my
to
life.
tell me, thank you so much for bringing that up. She never will leave you. If you want anything at all, just ask, and she's there for you. And I'm wanting to cry.
She's
Oh
the
my
first
God.
one who's ever given her the appreciation out in public. That
There
she
you
said.
go. It's unconditional.
No,
This is
I
what
know.
this is what unconditional love is.
You got it right. I got to tell you, she hit it right on the head.
I'm getting two good messages today. I got Steve's cousin. Yeah, there's a lot more, but we can talk another time about
Sure,
that. But
whenever you want.
absolutely.
I
Just-
don't deny it.
No, and I'm so happy that actually we brought that up because you know what? All we need to do is ask.
So Sally, what does she think about where he is right now in business?
So now you're gonna take it there? Why you leave her alone? You're gonna
No,
make her,
no,
you're
she's-
gonna make
yeah.
her cry. Relax.
She's scratching her head, actually. But no, it's okay. It's good. It's all good. But we'll do maybe a little bit in private at another
Sure.
time. Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
have a lot of kids around here. You never know what she might have to say.
Well, let's pick on one of them and find out what they
This
got.
one.
You can pick on me.
She's brand new. Let's pick on her.
Smiley. I love that name. It may not be your name, but we're going to call you Smiley.
Everybody calls her Smiley.
Yeah.
Wonder why?
I feel that you have something to ask me too.
Oh yeah, I want to see if anything comes up for me.
Well, we can get names and we know that. Let's ask something a little bit more.
Yeah, anything in general doesn't have to be a name.
Descriptive.
Any, I guess, feeling or presence.
No, but your presence is very known by a lot of the guys because we have many people in this studio here. We know that. They're seen and unseen.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
You
or
go
a bad
on the
thing.
road. You do go on the road a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's out there on the road
I do a
already.
lot of the
I don't know
networking and
too much. I
outreach.
know, yeah, but that's good. Whatever you're doing is good because it's taking you out of. I'm not going to say here because this is a good environment, but it's furthering your career. That's what I basically
Thank
want
you.
to ask you, not ask you to tell you. So that was a
You want to ask her the karma question?
Oh no, it wasn't a question.
no. It was a validation.
Freddie made a very interesting point about karma, where I find myself interested in the topic of karma, and he said that to not dwell on people that have wronged me in the past, because there's someone who does come to mind when I think of karma, who is someone who wronged me a lot for a long period of time.
Okay.
And Freddie just kind of told me to let it go.
Let it go,
basically.
because you're going to we can bring karma to us too. So, and I like that question. And
you're
that's
3 for 3
also good
today.
too. Sorry?
You're 3 for 3 today.
Yeah, I am. Well, I guess. I mean, karma is complicated, actually, very complicated. We all have karma. We've all been back. I mean, whether you believe it or not, my belief is we've been back many, many times. So with being back many times, we come back with a lot of the same people. Some people stay on the other side. Some people come back with us. So we always have things to work out. But if it's really, really important, because we don't always do it just in this lifetime, if it's something that keeps reoccurring in our life, like people say they have a relationship, I always pick the same person, only it's just a different person but the same problems. That in a way is karma, because we're trying to get something different, but we're doing the same thing. So to be aware of karma is good. So again, it can be from another lifetime and we don't even know. But having said that, we can meet people and we have an instant liking to somebody, or we have an instant dislike and we've never said anything to them. So again, that's a form of karma. In what I believe, I think it's good to have open communication. I'm not going to outwardly say I don't like you, but I might find out something about that person that might have been from another lifetime if I sense it. So I might actually become friendly with a person I don't like to find out whether I was correct, because it will keep repeating. It'll show in different situations. And we don't always get through our karma in this life because we make more karma. So karma is interesting. It's interesting. It helps us on our journey. It can hinder us too, because if we get really upset about something, we don't go beyond it. But I think it's something to be aware of. And I walked in here and we had instant good karma.
Yes.
So that happens too. I felt that I knew you. I wasn't sure at Freddie, but when we warmed up, yes, I did know you too, Freddie. But we had that with the paintings. I mean, it'll show itself. It'll show itself.
I think Josh had a question.
Yes.
Yo.
I just suddenly saw you sitting there because
Yeah.
you're all in dark clothing. So I
Yeah, I'm
see your
blending in.
face.
Thank you. Hi, Sally.
Hi. Hi, Josh.
First of all, go Birds. I know Steve is listening right now, so. Yeah. I guess first, if you have any messages for me before I ask my question.
I think they're saying that the same message is always the same, that when you ask that, they're here to validate that they're here for you, that change is good, change is coming about. I think because for some reason I don't usually remember what messages I give people, but I do remember yours. But change is coming about, and change is good.
Sweet. Yeah, so I had another great weekend, and I'm starting a new journey I'm excited about. Do you have any messages for me for this new journey I'm starting, I guess?
Keep an open mind. Very important that you keep that open mind, because nothing that you're doing, especially right now, is by coincidence. You're doing what you're meant to be doing. You might not always agree with it, Josh, and whoever's coming through is coming very strongly to tell you this. But please keep an open mind. There are two sides to a story. Okay, that will make sense if it doesn't make sense right now. Okay, so keep that open mind. When one person is telling you one thing and another, ultimately the decision is yours. Does that make sense to you?
Damn. Yeah.
That's whoever that guide is, a friend of mine. He always says, does that make sense? I don't know who it is, but that's how he ends it.
Thank you, Sally.
You're welcome. You have a question?
Do you see anything about me, or?
See, Yes, I see good things. When I'm put on the spot like that with personal questions, I sooner really do it sometimes on a one-to-one. But it's not that that's a bad thing. But I see your career change, but I think that maybe because you're new here. So I see that you're going down a path where there is going to be a lot of changes on that path. I think you're at the right place at the right time right now, but always keep an open mind about any decisions that you're making. And I mean, that really goes for any of us, really, but it's important for me, for me to give you that message right now. You are on the right track.
Thank you.
All right, so I have to ask you about Elizabeth.
Oh, she's always around you, Dawn, and she makes herself known through various different ways. She never left you, just like Freddie. Your friend has never left you. She's your friend, and actually my friend too from other lifetimes. She's so happy that we do acknowledge her, so it doesn't go with just me saying this. She's very aware that you're very aware of her, and that gives her the unconditional love that she readily gives you. And she's very happy, and she told me to tell you that. She was with us, and that's not something that we can expand more on that maybe at another time, but in that particular lifetime that we know what we're talking about was very real. She was part of and still is part of our soul family. She was in that lifetime with us. She's telling you that, and me too, that she wants that I'm bringing tears to my eyes, very known, but only we know about that right now. But it's very real. This is all imagination anyway, but it's real if you want to. That's another story. In our imagination, it's very real. She's very real right now.
When people come forward from a past life and you find them in a current life, I want to ask why now, or why about timing? What is time? I know you say there's no time on the other side, but say someone from another past life suddenly walks in and you know they were part of a past life.
That's important.
Why is the timing so important of when it happens?
Because it's happening. The fact that you recognize it, whoever it may be, there's a reason. We've had this is a really good question too, because we've had many lifetimes. So we can't bring in everybody into this life. But the ones that are important for this, because this is where we are. We're in our now, right? We're in our lifetime. So anybody that's been in another lifetime, we have an arrangement with. We don't meet anybody by accident. Even if it's just for a minute, there is a purpose. But that purpose, especially if you recognize somebody from another lifetime, in this lifetime, there is, I'm going to say 100% a reason that they're here for us in this particular lifetime, be it a spirit that comes in, and as Aldo was to me and still is with me, there is reasons for that. Because I could say from 10 lifetimes ago someone's going to show up, but it's not relevant for this lifetime. Maybe it isn't. But if we recognize someone, it's relevant for this lifetime that we're in.
Sally, can somebody who is searching, I don't want to call it light or dark, but maybe slightly darker spirit enter someone else's realm on any given day?
If they're searching and they can enter your realm?
They end up coming in here and all of a sudden you feel something go through you, stay with you, confuse you, whatever.
That is so relevant right now because I never, just talking about energy for myself too. Yes, you can feel it, Freddie, and it doesn't happen to me very often, but over the last few days I have felt an energy that is trying to, I'm not going to say hurt me, I don't know, but I feel an energy that is not gelling with me right now. That's the best word of saying that. So yes, it happens. So the best thing to do is always be aware that that can happen. I don't wish anybody harm, even if they're wishing it to me. It's not a good thing to do because you can actually, they talk about witches and things, and I'm not saying this is what you should do or even can do, but it's best to just expel it. You say, go away from me. I don't want...
But you have to acknowledge it.
That's the key word, and I was just going to say that. You have to acknowledge it, because without that acknowledgement, you have to give it some credence. You don't want to give it a lot of credence, but you want to give it something. So say, yeah, I know what you're doing to me. I know it. Leave me alone. because that's perfectly all right. Light a candle. Just say, I'm not going to say necessarily expel it back to that person, but there are ways to do that too, but you don't want bad energy sent to you. So just say, stop. Now, you've never really heard me say this. I've been here a long time. I don't feel it, but I have felt something the last couple of days for sure. And I just say, I've had enough. Stop it. I have protection. I know that we need to protect ourselves too. I have my friend Aldo up there. We all have certain times in our lives that things may not be going the right way. We can change it. Without harming or hurting somebody.
But we have to acknowledge it.
We have to acknowledge it, and acknowledgement is the key to this, because you can't just say, I'm feeling something strange. Just say, I feel it, I don't want it, go away. But you have to be very firm about that, very.
Is there a particular message that you're picking up from me, or like an energy or something that I may need to hear from this journey that I'm starting as well?
Well, I feel that what you actually said to me about your cat, you don't mind me explaining that a little bit, is whatever you feel is important. Even if I'm not picking up on that, what you said is important, and I did pick up on that because cats are psychic.
Yeah.
So, I loved all my dogs, but one in particular was a very psychic dog.
Yeah.
And I often feel her, she passed away about 3 years ago now, and I often feel her around me. Cats and dogs have energy, and they stay with us.
Yeah.
So
and
it's perfect, it's
is there a message that maybe he's trying to bring me, or?
protection. You have a spirit guide,
That's
an
sweet.
animal spirit guide.
Thank you.
Animals can see spirits we can't. That I do believe.
Yeah,
I'm very
Especially
skeptic of-
cats, yes, cats do.
Yes.
Dogs too. I had a very psychic dog who Aldo absolutely would read to every single day. Like he talked to me, he talked to my dog. Yeah, I had it. I mean, she'd lie
She's
down.
right. Animals are
She'd
souls.
lay on her back like this when
no,
we were
she's
in
right.
deep conversation, meditating. And he used to take her out for walks, my dog, and he used to sit on a bench and read to her for 2 hours like she was a little baby. And he's with her now.
She's right. Think about it. If you were a cat, you can't speak, but you want to be heard. You eat, you poo, and you sleep.
I don't know. I just felt like he understood what I was saying or feeling. He would
Absolutely,
just
and
look
I
at me
actually
and I
had
knew.
something happen to me a little while ago. Because I'm getting older, I love animals, but I don't want a cat and I don't want a dog right now. But my choice would be a dog if I was to have another animal. And Steve, if he's listening, knows this happened. And I suddenly said to him it was quite a few months ago now, my dog Sabrina came to me and I said, she's telling me, I know you don't want a dog. So I'm not going to come back as a dog, but I'm coming back as a cat. So I told Steve this story, and I said, I don't want a dog or a cat, but if Sabrina is there, that was my dog. Well, but I don't really want a cat. It's not because I don't love dogs and cats. We go to see his friends the next night for dinner. And they're talking to me, and they say, and she's a silver cat. She's coming back as a silver cat. We go to his friends for dinner, and there is a great big silver cat sitting there. And she said, I was told it was going to be put on my doorstep. She said, I will be on your doorstep. So his friend, the wife, she said to me, do you want this cat? I'll bring her around and put her on your doorstep. And it was a silver cat. And Steve saw that whole thing unfold. And I said, Sabrina, I can't take you, but you can't tell me dogs and cats are not psychic. That happened like a day later.
Absolutely.
She kept the cat and loves the cat. But it was very nearly on my doorstep, and that's exactly the message she gave to me. She was going to come back as a silver cat.
Well, I have a question now, kind of going back to something that I forget who said it, but about like moving through like from one generation to the next. Also, what I started to tell you about, this person who was wrong to me also has a son, and I've seen things kind of around me with how he treats his son, and I think intergenerational trauma runs deep in that family. So like, how do the past lives and spirits like
Well,
go?
it carries over sometimes, but then again, I do believe we choose our lives. So sometimes we're very aware of it, although we don't know. So if there is, and it does go from generation until you break that cycle, and that's very important too, because you do need to break that cycle, because it will go to the next generation. But if you're aware of it, you've done half your job already. And to break that is not always easy, but that's a form of karma too. But to be aware,
No,
aware
because
awareness is
it-
what's
you
you
haven't started on the
can't
topic.
break it without awareness, And when you become aware and know that it is possible to stop whatever it is, especially abuse, because that does run in families, it's carried over from another lifetime even. So it becomes more complicated. But if you're aware that whatever it is abuse, then we need to stop it the best we can. But that awareness is what's important.
See that? You started here today, all this knowledge.
I know, it's crazy. Something that came to my mind was, what do you think about like deja vu?
Okay, deja vu is also very important too. There is such a thing definitely as deja vu, because I believe, and this is just my own personal experience of deja vu, that before we come in, we kind of talk about our lives to people. And having said that, deja vu can make sense, because you can be in a certain place at a certain time and feel that you've done this before. You can even know the next word that you're going to say. How can that really be possible? So if we've planned our life, again, it can go on different timelines. I've said something to someone, and I'm sure every one of us has said that here. I feel like we've said this before. But to know the exact word that you're going to say, there's a memory. So deja vu does exist. We can change it just like, you know, I can with messages too, if we're not on that particular timeline. But there is a certain memory. We come in, we forget everything. Not every one of us, but a lot of us do. Young kids can still have memory. So that would make sense to deja vu, in my opinion anyway.
It's interesting because leading up to your question, how is it that certain people can see what you're going to say and do? And you're sitting here. And then they say, you're going to walk past this, whatever.
Yeah.
How do they see it?
That's the deja vu.
Well, it's because what she just said, it's different timelines. This already occurred.
Everything we've done, I truly believe, and you just said it, has occurred, even if we're not aware of it. If we planned our life, although it doesn't always go, there are different timelines, we have somewhere, it's hard, you know, to even explain this, there is a memory. If it's in, Aldo used to call it our super consciousness. So it's not our subconscious, it goes even further to a super consciousness, that we have the memory of all of this, of how our lifetimes are going to go. So it would make sense in a way, because how else can you explain that you know your next word, or that you're going to get on a plane and you're going to meet this person, or wherever you are, kind of know in detail even what it doesn't happen all the time, but even on the rare occasions that it happens, how is this possible without us planning something? So yeah, that was a good question. We have deja vu next week. We're ready to go.
That's it?
Tell them how they can get your book, Sally.
Yes, you can either, can you, because I'm still right there.
QR code up for Sally, please, for her book.
You can either buy it on Amazon or on Author House. And that's the QR code. And because I'm in some sort of, I don't often say this, but I do channel, so it's a little difficult sometimes for me to bring myself back right away. But this is my book. This does explain a lot of things that happen, and there are pictures in the book too. So if you have questions, which is perfect, because you can call me next week, write down something if you buy my book or have my book, and you have a question that's in my book, I'm happy to answer. I'm here every Monday, and you can get my recordings too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm only as good as the question that I'm asked, and that's very important.
Nice job.
Thank you.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you can always seek me out for resources by visiting artbysallybarnard.com. Join us next week, Mondays at 2:30. Have a blessed day.